Welcome. I'm Luke Roquet, SVP of Product Marketing at Cloudera. I'm here today with Sudhir Menon, our Chief Product Officer. We're at the Cloudera office down in Buckhead, Atlanta, Georgia. And really excited to talk to you today. As you just heard, we just announced the release of Cloudera Observability. It's the industry's first applied observability tool for modern data lakehouses. And we believe it's going to revolutionize how people take advantage of their data and how they build data applications. So Suds, maybe you could dive in a little bit in terms of what is the significance of this? Why is this so important?
Yeah, 3 years ago when we started building out a hybrid cloud architecture, one thing became very apparent. When it comes to cloud architectures, performance equals cost. Right? The longer it takes a workload to run, the longer you are on CPU, which means you're going to pay more money.
Yep.
Right? That's number one. Number two is that the number of workloads that were running in these cloud native architectures were exploding exponentially, which meant that customers were paying more and more money for running the same workload or the same type of workload. Mm-hmm. So we needed to understand what was driving. We needed to actually have a much better fine granular understanding of workload performance. And when you do that, you need to make sure that in order to do it right, you need to have the right telemetry coming out from the engines. That telemetry actually has to be open. And then when I looked at Cloudera customers, my initial instinct was not to build another product. We looked at what was available out there, and we looked at the scale at which customers were running our workloads, and we realized that we had to do something to make sure that we could solve this problem at scale. And it required us to retool the way we produce telemetry, the way we actually aggregate it, the way we, make those insights available to customers. But primary motivation for it was about reducing TCO for the customers and improving agility. Because the longer it takes for you to tune your workloads to figure out what is happening in the system, that is time that you're not spending in production.
Yep.
And we wanted to make sure that that was the whole push around our cloud native architecture. So that's why we went with Cloudera Observability.
And observability is sort of a loaded term. It means a lot of things to a lot of people.
Yes.
Gartner said applied observability is the top trend for 2023. But when we say observability at Cloudera, what precisely do we mean?
So there are three things that actually fall into the observability umbrella as far as Cloudera customers are concerned. One is what is happening in the platform right now. Because you need fine-grained metrics that allow you to figure out what is happening in the platform. The second piece is the ability to look back at what happened and run analysis on that. Mm-hmm. So those are two critical things. The third piece of it is essentially around we call FinOps or financial metrics.
Yeah.
So be able to understand the cost of running something in a particular environment at a point in time. Now, why is this important? Because several of the Cloudera engines have support for Spot instances. And if you run a workload at a certain point in time where availability of Spot is higher than at other times, your workload financial performance might be a lot better.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't know that. So those are the three things. What is happening in the platform? How do you analyze what happened? And then what are the financial implications? Those are the three things that we're trying to cover with the Cloudera Observability umbrella.
Yeah, look, the FinOps case is a huge case, right? I mean, you can't read anything about cloud computing today that doesn't talk about how do I control costs associated with cloud computing. As you said, performance equals cost. So when we talk about observability, though, it's more than just what the term seems to imply, which is observing and watching. We're also going proactive and actually giving recommendations. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
Yes. I mean, not only that, actually, we even in the module that we've released today, in the product that we've released today, we have support for a module called Auto Actions, which means based on our understanding of what is happening with that workload, the observability product can actually take actions to improve performance, like for instance, it can change queue sizes, right?
Yeah.
Which will actually allow, recommend better queue hierarchies, which gives you better isolation. Eventually, a product like this has to take advantage of all of this data and apply unsupervised machine learning to be able to make decisions on behalf of the customer, right? With a human in the middle, being an option.
Yeah.
But that is where we are heading with this. And that's why we're excited about it. Because the scope and the scale of data of all the workloads that the customers are running is huge.
Yeah. How does this stack up to what's available from other data lakehouse platforms? Is this unique? I mean, I position it certainly as unique, but what's your perspective on that?
So, when we started looking at data lakehouse applications, what we quickly recognized is our customers actually, because of the length of time that they've been deploying data lakes, with Cloudera, they have large scaled up applications. So when you talk about workloads that run on tens of petabytes or even hundreds of petabytes of data, the scope and scale of what you're trying to analyze, the scope and scale of the telemetry that you're gathering, making sense of, is actually, is commensurate with the scale at which those workloads are. So I don't think there is anyone who is doing anything at this scale, but that's partly because they do not have workloads at that scale.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, and so it's kind of natural that we would need to build a product that matches up to the scale at which we are being used.
Yeah.
Right.
And at our scale, the efficiency gains have tremendous financial
Tremendous
impact.
value. Right. Exactly.
So from a cost, infrastructure, depending on if you're private cloud, public cloud, there's extreme impact everywhere.
Yes. It's like saying that if you run an ad hoc query that completes within a few seconds, you run hundreds of them.
Yeah.
Yes, observability still gives you benefits, but it isn't translating into millions of dollars on an annual basis. But when you run workloads, batch workloads, interactive workloads on large data sets, that's where it starts to really make a difference. And also the quality of the data that we are gathering and the quality of the decisions that we are making becomes super important. Like I said, I didn't set out to build a product, but when I looked at what needed to get done, I quickly realized that the problem had not been solved at this scale, and that is why we went this route.
How does this help customers who are more and more focused on having hybrid deployments, where part of their data is on-prem, parts in parts in multi-cloud? How does this help with that?
Yes. So it's very in plain, simple terms. Let's say you run a ETL workload on-prem. You have a certain type of hardware. It takes a certain amount of time to run that workload. Let's say, with Cloudera data services, you can take that same application, run that workload in the cloud. How do you know what to run that, what it'll cost you to run that workload in the cloud?
Yeah.
And what happens when that workload becomes 24/7, 365?
Yeah.
Right. So the ability to actually calculate what your cost savings would be when when an application gets built in the cloud and you can run it in private cloud against Ozone, being able to do that preemptively, proactively is huge.
Yeah. Look, this is the tremendous impact of the Cloudera data platform is one of the unique things is its portability.
Yes.
And so portability allows you to run workloads at the right place at the right time at the right economics, but how do you know what that is, right?
How do you know?
And so I think that's what we're aiming to solve here, which is tremendously impactful.
And one other thing that is, very much in line with where we are going with this platform is, okay, so we now know what it costs to run this workload, which means we know what is the computing cost, we know how much electricity is needed, what it'll cost you to run it in cloud A versus cloud B. At some point in time, this data actually becomes the basis for how we actually become more sustainable as a company.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there is work that's happening that on the back of what we are doing with Cloudera Observability that will actually present that kind of information to our customers. Pretty excited about that as well.
Yeah, very exciting. So I just want to thank you for your time today. It's been a pleasure, as always, to chat with you, and really, really excited about what we're doing with Cloudera Observability. I think it's a game changer to help our customers really harness the full power of their hybrid data platforms from a monitoring, observing, auto actions, and recommendations perspective. So thank you, Suds. Appreciate your time.
Thanks.